Princess Lyra stood at the balcony of her palace, staring at the horizon. The twin suns of her planet were setting, casting long shadows over the city. The streets below were quiet, but the silence was deceiving. Her people were suffering. The enemy forces had been tightening their grip for months, cutting off supply lines, raiding villages, and spreading fear. Lyra could feel the weight of the responsibility pressing down on her shoulders. She was not just a princess. She was the last hope for her civilization. She turned as her advisor, Malrin, entered the room. "Princess, the council is waiting for you," he said. His tone was cautious, aware that the words he spoke carried a heavy burden. Lyra nodded. "I know, Malrin, and I know what they expect. What you propose." "It is dangerous," Malrin said, folding his hands. "Marrying a human from another star system. Our people will see it as a gamble. Some might even call it foolish." Lyra's eyes hardened. "Foolish or not, we have no choice. If we cannot find protection, our civilization will not survive another year." She paused, taking a deep breath. "I do not care if they call me reckless. I care that my people live." Malrin gave her a long look, his face filled with concern. "Very well, Princess. If this is truly your decision, I will support you." Lyra straightened her shoulders and walked to the council chamber. The room was vast, with tall ceilings and walls adorned with symbols of her people's history. Council members sat in a semicircle, their faces a mixture of fear, doubt, and anticipation. "Princess Lyra," said the elder counselor, Tarek, "you wish to propose marriage to a human. Do you truly believe this is the solution to our plight?" Lyra stepped forward, her voice firm. "I do. I have studied the human we are considering. His intelligence, his skill, his ability to adapt. It is beyond anything we have encountered. If we form an alliance through marriage, he can protect us from the enemy and lead our people in ways we cannot." A murmur ran through the council. Some exchanged doubtful glances, while others whispered quietly among themselves. "And what of your own safety, Princess?" another counselor asked. "Do you consider the consequences? For yourself?" Lyra's gaze did not waver. "I am willing to bear the consequences. If my marriage can save my people, then I will do it. I will not let fear dictate our fate." The room fell silent. Tarek finally spoke. "If you are resolved, Princess, then we will respect your decision. But know this: humans are unpredictable. Trusting one to save us is a risk like no other." Lyra bowed her head. "I understand, but I have no other choice." Meanwhile, across the stars, Adrian was aboard his small exploration ship, unaware of the destiny about to be thrust upon him. He was monitoring the ship's systems when an unexpected transmission appeared on his screen. The signal was foreign, encrypted in a language he had never encountered. Curiosity and caution warred within him. He activated the translator and listened as a voice spoke clearly in his language. "Adrian, we require your aid. Our people are in danger, and only your skills can save them." Adrian frowned. "Who is this? How do you know my name?" The voice was calm, authoritative, and tinged with desperation. "I am Princess Lyra of the planet Arendor. Our civilization faces annihilation. I seek a union, a marriage, to form an alliance with you. You are our only hope." Adrian stared at the screen. Marriage? An alliance? He had traveled across galaxies, but he had never imagined a request like this. "Why me?" "No," he asked, leaning back in his chair. "I'm not a king or a soldier of some mighty empire. I'm just human." "There is no just in humanity, Adrian," Lyra replied. "Your people are remarkable. Your adaptability, intelligence, and courage. And these are qualities that can change the course of a civilization. I have studied your records, your accomplishments, and I believe you are the one who can help us survive." Adrian rubbed his temples. "This is a lot to process. Why marriage? Why not simply offer aid? Why marriage?" Lyra's voice softened, though it carried firm resolve. "Our culture honors bonds of union above all else. A marriage is not about romance. In our case, it is a pact, a promise of loyalty and protection. Without it, your help would be limited, and our people might never fully trust you." Adrian sat in silence, the weight of the request pressing down on him. He was used to danger, to exploring unknown planets. But this was different. This was not just a mission, it was a life-altering decision. And yet, he felt something stir within him. A sense of purpose. A chance to make a real difference. "Very well," he said finally. "I will come to Arendor. I will meet you, and we will discuss this alliance. But understand this, Princess, I do not make promises lightly." "I understand," Lyra replied, relief evident in her voice. "We will prepare for your arrival." Days later, Adrian's ship descended onto Arendor. The city was unlike anything he had ever seen. Tall, crystalline towers shimmering in the sunlight. Bustling streets filled with beings of varied forms, all moving with purpose and grace. Yet beneath the beauty, he sensed tension, a fear that lingered in the air. He was escorted to the palace, where Lyra awaited him. She was dressed in ceremonial robes, her posture regal and composed. Despite her calm exterior, Adrian could see the strain in her eyes. "Welcome to Arendor," she said, inclining her head. "I am grateful you have come." Adrian nodded. "I came because your people need help. But I need to understand what I am stepping into. Row. Show me what is happening here." Lyra led him to the war room. A vast chamber filled with maps, holographic displays, and tactical models. The enemy's positions were marked in red, their advances mapped in meticulous detail. Villages destroyed, supply lines cut, civilians displaced. "This is our reality," Lyra said, her voice steady but heavy with emotion. "We are on the brink of collapse. Our military is brave, but they lack the coordination and resources to withstand the enemy. That is where you come in." Adrian studied the maps, his mind already racing. He began asking questions, observing patterns, and pointing out weaknesses in the enemy's strategy. Lyra watched in awe as he identified opportunities that no Arendorian commander had seen, suggesting tactics that could turn the tide in their favor. "It's risky," Adrian said, tracing a route on the map. "But if executed properly, we could protect the main cities and save most of your people." Lyra nodded. "And you would lead this effort?" "I will," he replied simply. The council convened to formalize the marriage. It was a ceremony steeped in tradition, yet unlike anything Adrian had imagined. He felt the weight of expectation, the eyes of an entire civilization upon him. Lyra approached, her expression calm but resolute. "This marriage is not for love," she said softly, standing beside him. "It is for survival. If you accept it, you are pledging to stand with my people, to protect them, and to lead when needed." Adrian met her gaze. "I accept. Not because I must, but because I choose to help. I cannot promise anything beyond my best effort." The officiant pronounced them united. The room erupted in applause, though some faces remained skeptical. The marriage was complete, but the real test was only beginning. That night, Lyra walked the palace gardens alone, reflecting on the day's events. She had acted out of necessity, yet a small part of her felt hope. For the first time in months, she believed that perhaps, with Adrian's guidance, her people could survive. Meanwhile, Adrian explored the city on his own, observing the streets, the defenses, and the daily life of Arendor's citizens. He noticed their ingenuity, their resilience, but also their limitations. They had courage and skill, but without proper coordination, they were vulnerable. He began formulating plans in his mind, ways to strengthen their defenses, train their soldiers, and inspire confidence. By dawn, Adrian was already in the war room, sketching strategies and explaining tactics to Lyra and her commanders. Slowly, doubts began to fade, replaced by a cautious optimism. The humans' abilities were unlike anything they had ever seen, and Lyra realized that her gamble might not only save her people, it might transform them. As the sun rose over the crystalline towers of Arendor, a new chapter began. Princess Lyra had married out of necessity, and Adrian had accepted a challenge beyond any he had faced. Together, they would confront the threats that loomed over the planet. And though neither could foresee the full scope of what was coming, both sensed that something extraordinary was about to unfold. Little did Lyra know, the human she had married held power beyond mere tactics and courage power that would soon astonish her and her people, changing the course of their history forever. The sun rose over Arendor, casting a warm, golden glow across the city. The streets were busy with preparations. Soldiers practiced drills, merchants stocked supplies, and citizens whispered about the strange human who had arrived and married Princess Lyra. Some were skeptical, some curious, but all felt a cautious sense of hope. Adrian stood at the highest balcony of the palace, looking over the city. He had spent the past days studying the enemy's movements, analyzing weaknesses, and training the Arendorian soldiers. Their military was strong but lacked coordination. With their courage and his strategies combined, he believed they could hold off the invaders. Lyra joined him, her expression unreadable. "Are you certain this plan will work?" she asked. Adrian shook his head slightly. "No plan is perfect. But if we act quickly, use the element of surprise, and coordinate your forces properly, we can protect the city. Your people are brave, Lyra. They just need guidance." She nodded slowly. "I hope you're right." Adrian placed a hand on her shoulder, a rare gesture of comfort. "We will protect them. I promise." That afternoon, a warning alarm sounded throughout the city. Scout sensors had detected enemy units approaching from the northern mountains. Lyra's heart sank. This was the first real test. Soldiers scrambled, civilians took shelter, and the streets grew tense. Adrian entered the war room, his mind already calculating every possibility. The enemy will attack in 3 main groups. The largest will aim for the central gate. A smaller group will try to cut off the eastern supply route, and the last will attempt to sneak into the city through the old sewer passages. The Arendorian commanders exchanged nervous glances. They had never faced an enemy that could move so quickly or use tactics so cleverly. Adrian continued, "We will split our forces. Central gate defense must be strong, but we will set traps to slow them down. Eastern supply route, send a mobile unit to intercept. As for the sewers, I will lead a small strike team myself." Lyra's eyes widened. "You will go? But it is dangerous." "I am not asking anyone else to face this risk while I stay behind," Adrian replied calmly. "We either face it together, or we fail together." As the enemy approached, the city erupted into organized chaos. Soldiers moved with new confidence, inspired by Adrian's precise orders. Civilians watched from behind walls, hoping this human could live up to the promise that saved their city. Adrian led his strike team to the sewer entrance. His movements were fluid, almost like he had anticipated every obstacle. The enemy infiltrators were skilled, but Adrian's instincts and reflexes allowed him to counter every ambush. He moved silently, striking with precision, disabling enemies without unnecessary violence. The Arendorians who followed him could barely keep up with his speed and decisiveness. Back at the central gate, Lyra observed as the enemy's largest force arrived. Soldiers held their positions, but panic began to ripple through them as they saw the sheer number of invaders. Adrian's strategy had prepared them. but the tension was still palpable. Then, Adrian appeared on a raised platform, overlooking the gate, issuing commands that were clear, concise, and inspiring. Hold the line, remember your training, protect the city and your people. Something changed in the soldiers. Fear turned into determination. They fought with renewed energy, inspired by the human who had entered their lives only days ago. Hours passed. The battle raged. Lyra watched as Adrian moved from one front to another, his presence turning the tide wherever he went. He led ambushes against the enemy, set clever traps that funneled them into vulnerable positions, and personally rescued soldiers caught in dangerous situations. At one point, a fireball of energy erupted near the city gates, threatening to destroy the defenses. Without hesitation, Adrian leaped into the path, calculating the trajectory and deflecting the attack with a device he had constructed from limited resources. The soldiers around him gasped. His bravery, intelligence, and adaptability were unlike anything they had seen. Lyra could not believe her eyes. This was no ordinary human. His courage was remarkable, but it was his mind, his ability to see patterns, anticipate enemy moves, and act decisively that astonished her. She realized that her people were witnessing something extraordinary. By evening, the enemy had begun to falter. Adrian's strategies, combined with the soldiers' courage, had turned what could have been a catastrophic invasion into a controlled engagement. Enemy forces retreated, confused, and demoralized, unable to counter the unconventional tactics that had been used against them. Lyra approached Adrian as he returned to the palace, exhausted but unbowed. Adrian shook his head. "We did it. Your people fought bravely. I just helped guide them. It is their courage that saved the city. Not mine. Alone." Lyra smiled, though fatigue and worry lingered in her eyes. "I don't know how to thank you. I married you to save my people, but I did not expect this, your power, your mind. It is beyond anything I imagined." Adrian looked at her, a hint of humility in his expression. "I am not magic, princess. I am human. That is all. But humans have strengths that are often underestimated. Adaptability, creativity, courage. These can make a difference in ways that seem impossible at first." Lyra nodded slowly, understanding dawning. "Then perhaps our people can learn from you. Not just be saved by you. Perhaps this marriage was meant to teach us more than survival. It can teach us to be stronger ourselves." The next morning, the city was quiet, but the aftermath of battle was visible. Soldiers repaired damaged walls, citizens cleaned debris, and the council gathered to assess the situation. The enemy had retreated, but they would return. Lyra knew this. She also knew that Adrian's presence was now vital, not just as a protector, but as a symbol of hope. During the council meeting, Tarek spoke cautiously. "Princess, the human has proven himself. His tactics saved us. But the enemy will not give up so easily. Are we ready for what comes next?" Lyra's eyes met Adrian's. "We are ready," she said firmly. "With him, and with our people's courage, we will survive. We will learn. We will grow stronger." Adrian nodded. "Then we prepare. The next battle will be even more challenging, but we will face it together. That is the only way to win." Over the following days, Adrian worked tirelessly with the Arendorian soldiers. He trained them in new strategies, improved their defenses, and taught them how to think like a team. He did not fight for them, he taught them to fight with intelligence and courage. Slowly, the people began to change. Their confidence grew. Fear began to fade, replaced by a determination that was infectious. Lyra watched him closely. She had expected someone strong, perhaps even clever, but she had not anticipated the way Adrian inspired others. He did not merely act as a protector. He became a leader who brought out the best in everyone around him. One evening, as they walked through the city gardens, she spoke quietly. "Adrian, I need to ask you something. How? How are you able to do all this? How do you move so quickly, think so clearly, and always know what to do?" Adrian smiled faintly. "I do not know if I can explain it. Humans, we learn from everything. We adapt. We use what we have and turn it into something greater. It is not magic. It is instinct, experience, and the will to survive." Lyra shook her head in awe. "Whatever it is incredible. I married you to save my people, but now I see that you are changing them in ways I did not expect. You are teaching us to be stronger, smarter, braver." Adrian looked at her, a quiet intensity in his gaze. "That is the real power, Lyra. Not just defeating an enemy, but helping people realize what they can do for themselves. That is how civilizations survive and thrive." As night fell, the city of Arendor was calm for the first time in weeks. Fires had been extinguished, walls repaired, and soldiers rested. But the shadow of future threats loomed. Adrian knew this was only the beginning. The enemy would return, stronger and smarter. Yet, for the first time, Lyra felt a sense of hope she had not known in years. The human she had married had proven himself not only capable of protecting her people, but of inspiring them. She began to understand the truth. Humans were extraordinary, and Adrian's power went far beyond mere strength or skill. He had changed everything. The first rays of sunlight crept over the crystalline towers of Arendor, casting long shadows across the city. The calm that had returned after the last battle was deceptive. Scouts had reported massive enemy movements this time, a full-scale invasion unlike anything the planet had faced before. Lyra knew immediately that the enemy's return would be decisive. This was the true test of her people's courage and Adrian's abilities. Adrian stood at the palace's highest balcony, looking out at the advancing forces. His eyes, calm and focused, swept over the horizon. Unlike the Arendorians, who felt fear gnawing at their hearts, Adrian's mind worked like a machine, analyzing every possible tactic, every weakness in the enemy's formation. Lyra joined him, her expression tense but resolute. "They are more numerous than last time. Are we ready?" Adrian shook his head slightly, not in doubt, but in consideration. "We are outnumbered, yes, but numbers are not everything. Strategy, adaptability, and determination, these are what will win the day." Lyra swallowed hard. "Your people, your kind, humans, they are said to be incredible. But seeing you in action, Adrian, I can understand why. Your presence, it gives us hope." Adrian's gaze softened. "Then let's make sure hope is not wasted." The city gates were fortified, soldiers lined the walls, and citizens moved to safety. Adrian walked among the troops, inspecting their equipment, encouraging them, and ensuring everyone knew their role. His presence was magnetic. Even the most doubtful soldier straightened with renewed determination. The enemy arrived in overwhelming numbers. Their ships darkened the sky, and their ground forces moved with terrifying precision. Lyra watched from the palace tower, holding her breath. This was it, the ultimate test. Adrian's voice rang out across the city, amplified by communication devices he had helped install. "Soldiers of Arendor, today, we fight not just for survival, but for our future. Remember your training, trust your instincts, and follow my orders. Together, we will prevail." A roar went up from the soldiers. Fear was replaced with resolve. They had seen what Adrian could do, and now they believed not just in him, but in themselves. The battle began with the enemy's aerial forces bombarding the city walls. Adrian coordinated the defenses with precision. Using countermeasures, traps, and unexpected maneuvers, he directed the soldiers to defend weak points cover civilians, and strike the enemy at vulnerable spots. Lyra's heart pounded as she watched Adrian move. He didn't simply command from afar, he was in the thick of it, directing squads, rescuing soldiers trapped under debris, and deflecting enemy attacks with quick thinking and ingenious devices. One moment, he was rerouting a defensive turret. The next, he was leading a small team to flank an enemy squad. It was clear to everyone watching. Adrian's abilities were extraordinary. He seemed to anticipate every move the enemy made, responding faster than anyone could follow. His actions were precise, efficient, and yet remarkably human-powered, not by magic, but by intellect, courage, and experience. In the Eastern District, a massive enemy unit had broken through the outer defenses. Civilians fled in panic, and soldiers struggled to hold the line. Adrian raced to the scene, assessing the situation instantly. "This way," he shouted, signaling his team. Using the city's architecture to their advantage, he led a counterattack that funneled the enemy into a narrow corridor. Traps he had set in advance were activated energy nets, diversion walls, and controlled explosions, which immobilized the invading forces. Within minutes, the Eastern District was secure. Lyra watched, heart pounding, as Adrian fought and led simultaneously. It was not brute force alone that saved the district, but strategy, timing, and the ability to inspire those around him. The Arendorians had never seen such efficiency in combat. Meanwhile, in the city center, the largest enemy force approached. Adrian deployed soldiers strategically, using a combination of defensive positions and mobile units. He personally took command of a critical choke point, using a combination of quick thinking and physical skill to hold back a wave of enemies. Lyra, from her vantage point, could hardly believe what she was witnessing. Adrian moved with a grace and precision that seemed almost impossible. One moment he was redirecting a charge. The next, he was shielding civilians, then issuing orders to surrounding squads, all without hesitation. She whispered to herself, This is incredible." Even the council members, hardened and cautious, stared in awe. "I have never seen anything like it," Tarek murmured. "The human. He is extraordinary." As the battle raged, Adrian noticed the enemy commander, a towering figure, heavily armed, moving with brutal efficiency. Adrian's mind raced. "If we focus all our strength here," he thought, "we can break their command structure and force a retreat." He called for a concentrated strike, personally leading a group to target the enemy commander. Using clever tactics, diversionary maneuvers, and precise timing, Adrian created an opening. In a display of skill and courage, he confronted the commander directly, disarming and disabling him without unnecessary destruction. The enemy troops faltered, confused, and leaderless. The tide of battle shifted rapidly. Arendorian soldiers, inspired by Adrian's example, fought with renewed strength. They pushed back enemy forces, reclaiming streets and rooftops, securing the city. Civilians cheered from behind barriers, their hope restored. Lyra rushed to Adrian's side as the last enemy forces retreated. He shook his head humbly. "We did it. Your people fought bravely. I guided them. Yes, but it was their courage that won the day." Lyra looked around at the city, damaged but alive. "Your power, it's more than just strength or skill. You inspire us. You show us what we are capable of. I married you to save my people. But you've done more than protect them. You've awakened something in us." Adrian smiled faintly. "That is the real power of humanity. Not to dominate, but to adapt, to overcome, and to inspire others to be their best." In the following days, the city recovered. Soldiers trained under Adrian's guidance. Civilians rebuilt their homes, and the council began to adopt his strategies for governance and defense. Lyra saw her people change, confident, capable, and proud. Adrian had not only saved their lives, he had shown them how to fight and think differently, how to be stronger together. One evening, Lyra and Adrian stood together on the palace balcony, watching the sun set over the repaired city. "You've changed everything," Lyra said softly. "Arendor will never be the same again, and neither will I." Adrian glanced at her, a quiet intensity in his gaze. "Change is inevitable, Lyra. What matters is what we do with it. Your people are brave and strong. They only needed guidance. Together, we can face any threat that comes our way." Lyra nodded. "I know now that marrying you was the right choice. Not because it was necessary, but because it brought hope, strength, and unity." Adrian placed a hand gently on hers. "And together, we will continue to protect this world and its people. That is what truly matters." Months later, news came that the enemy forces had been defeated across neighboring regions, partly due to Arendor's newfound strength. Humans, once underestimated by many civilizations, were now seen as remarkable beings, adaptable, courageous, and capable of extraordinary feats. Adrian had become a symbol, not of dominance, but of inspiration. Lyra walked through the streets, observing her people. Children practiced drills, soldiers trained with focus, and citizens moved confidently through their city. The air was filled with hope, laughter, and determination. She realized that Adrian's influence went far beyond battle. It had transformed her society. She found Adrian in the war room, reviewing maps and preparing for potential threats. "I see you're already planning ahead," she said, smiling. Adrian looked up. "A city must always be ready, Princess. Strength must be maintained, and wisdom must guide it. But I also see the progress your people have made. They are capable now. My role is to guide, not to carry them forever." Lyra nodded, a sense of pride swelling in her chest. "You've shown me the true power of humans, not just their strength, but their ability to inspire, to teach, and to lead. I married you to save my people, but now I see that you've given them something far greater: confidence in themselves." Adrian smiled, a rare warmth in his expression. "That is what humans can do, Lyra. And together, we will continue to face whatever comes next." As the twin suns set over Arendor, the city stood strong, united, and ready for the future. Lyra understood that the human she had married was more than a protector. He was a teacher, a leader, and a symbol of hope. And as she looked at Adrian, she realized that the bond they shared had become more than a marriage of necessity. It was a partnership that could change the course of history. The enemy had underestimated humans, and the galaxy would soon learn the same lesson. Never underestimate the power of humanity.